And we're live. Hello to all my BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to the official rebranded debut of our TNA pay-per-view review show here. We have gone under a name change. We started as the Impact Authority, but now in 2025, your TNA PLE review show is now being presented by the Six-Sided Skolas as an ode to the original TNA ring, which was 6 sides. I am one of your hosts, Mikey, and of course, joining me this evening to review Genesis is not only my partner in crime, Papa also Will, but he was our live correspondent, boots to the ground, if you will, for this event because Will got to be able to watch Genesis live in person, like actual, like what is real life right now. It's crazy. So I'm excited to get his reaction along with his review, as well as some maybe behind the scenes stuff we didn't get to see on television. So I'm excited to have Will here. But to fear not, because the Six-Sided Scholars are pulling double duty this evening, because we will also be going over the TNA episode from Thursday, January 23rd, the first live episode of TNA in 7 years, which we'll talk about some of the production because y'all got to get it together because the action was good. I just wish I heard some more of it. But anyways, before we jump into our night of TNA action galore, a little bit of housekeeping, which means, what does that mean, Mikey? Well, I'm glad you asked. Random voice on the internet, or possibly in my head. We're still trying to figure that out. But if you like what you see on your screen, you love our live streams, our edited videos, and you want, more, you can definitely follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Patreon. We have the YouTube, we have the Twitch, we have some merchandise. Link in this description below if you want to get something for yourself. And, you can see all kinds of things from our report cards to our predictions for big pay-per-view events and things like that, to clips of our lovable, adorable faces reviewing wrestling and sometimes giving out of context meaning, which is hilarious for the internet to get a hold of, and so much more, as well as pleasant conversations to be had with the wrestling community. So if that sounds right up your alley, go ahead and follow us all over there. If you just want to watch our videos, then we love you even more for that too. So I'm gonna be real, we are easy to please. We would just want to have a good conversation talking with folks about wrestling, which is exactly why we're here tonight. So Genesis has finally come and gone. The dust is settled. And before we get into the play-by-play of all the matches and everything in between, my initial overall thoughts is I thought Genesis was a huge success. And I'm not going to lie, there was a little bit of me that was worried. I was like, certain decisions need to be made because then we're going to have a rough go for the next, leading up into the next big 4 pay-per-view of Rebellion in April. Thankfully, I do think some good decisions were made, but I also have a lot of questions. And I feel like some of them got answered on this episode, yesterday's episode of TNA. But then I was also left with more questions by the end of it. I'm like, what is happening? But we'll get into all of that. But we're going to start part 1 of our night with Genesis. So Genesis took place January 19th, 2025 from Dallas, Texas, teenagers, if you will. Yeehaw. That I gotta say, that arena, TNA doesn't go to these big old megaplex like pavilions, but damn, they fit a lot of people. From at least what I saw while I was watching the pay-per-view, they fit a lot of people in that arena, and that was amazing. It was great. And we're going to talk a little bit about the countdown show because we got a little bit of a countdown show. We had a whole panel on stage of the Busted Open folks. So,
I don't know what all you could see on the pay-per-view because I haven't watched the pay-per-view, but the arena, the facility that we were in was packed. I mean, there wasn't an empty seat anywhere. It was crazy because originally
I believe they sold out too.
they sold out the whole venue. They announced it like right before the countdown show began. They're like, "Oh, it's coming for a sold out house." La la la. And as about, I would say, right after the countdown show, because right before the countdown show, there was a lot of empty seats, and I was like, "Really? Oh, well, maybe the cold weather is keeping people away." But I think it was there. People were just like, "Oh, I'll get there after the countdown show," you know. And then because that's when it really started packing out. Because even where we were sitting, there was like lots of empty seats around us on the floor. And I was just like, this is crazy. I would have, I was like, no, but it started just filling in. But by the time I want to say about second match of the actual main card, that place was packed.
Right. So I'm happy that TNA sold out this pay-per-view because this was a big night for them. And we kicked things off again. We had the Busted Open, podcasting panel on, the main stage, doing some stuff. We got a reintroduction of Ariana Grace because literally the like 2 days before we got that announcement of the TNA NXT partnership being extended for multiple years, which is crazy. And we saw it take so much effect within this and the episode last night, which we'll talk about. But Ariana Grace is out here. And then, of course, this is where we immediately start things off because, Ashanti the Adonis.
Yeah.
Like, he comes out, he's, backhandedly compliments Ava, wants to, show this crowd what an NXT superstar can do here with TNA, issues an open challenge. As soon as Jake Something's music hits, I'm like, I was like, we are now here gathered today to mourn the loss or to admonish his stupidity of Ashanti the Adonis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When I saw that, when Jake came out, I was like, oh, Ashanti's dead. 2, I'm happy to see Jake on the countdown because I didn't know if he was going to make an appearance anywhere.
Yeah.
And 3, I'm like, I'm pretty sure Will probably lost his mind.
I did. I sure did. I sure did. Because there's nothing, seeing him on television is like, wow, but seeing him in person is like, Jesus criminy.
He is a big man.
He is huge. I mean, huge. I mean, he came down, because we were sitting just to the left of the ramp, about 4 or 5 seats in, give or take. We were very, very close. And we were just like 2-3 rows back from the ring. And he walked out. I mean, he is a giant. I mean, he looks big on television, but in person, he is like gargantuan. I mean, geez Louise, when he came busting out there, of course, the minute the music hit, I was like, oh my God. And of course, Michael also was like, oh, wow, he's cute. I'm like, yes, he is. And, but I was just like, God, he's huge. I mean, honestly, until you see him in person, it's like you don't realize how big of a man he is, like just a wall. And yeah, it was crazy.
Poor Ashanti the Adonis. The best way because there wasn't really too much of this match. This was like a 5-minute. Ashanti did get to showcase some stuff, but ultimately he was put down into the ground by Jake Something into the void. Jake Something defeats Ashanti the Adonis. It was 5 minutes. I enjoyed myself. I'm happy for Jake. Ashanti got some screen time, so it's a win-win for everyone involved.
Indeed it was.
Now, it's a win-win for me, only one of the 2 people, though. So, This is the actual match that was advertised on the Countdown show leading into the pay-per-view, which was Frankie Kazarian and Leon Slater. So we've actually had some builds with this. Frankie wanted to mentor Leon Slater, but Frankie was trying to make him a young boy in the sense of doing errands for him, polishing his trophy, all and that good stuff. And then, Frankie will teach him about wrestling. And of course, Leon Slater's like, nah, man, we ain't gonna do that today. Like, I'm good. And so they have been kind of at weird odds with each other where Leon doesn't hate Frankie, but he's like, yeah, man, you need to back up. Like, it's getting weird, man. It's getting weird. I wanted Leon to win so bad. I will say, though, again, when I saw this on the card and then when I watched the match, I was just like, I am so happy that Will gets to see Leon Slater fly in action. Like, that kid does not stop. And it's the same whether it's on TV or live, the kid knows no speed limits or gravity.
No, he does not. The other thing is seeing Frankie Kazarian wrestle live. He's so good. I mean, he's actually so good.
Of course, veteran of the industry.
Yeah, and I mean, it was great because we see him on the episodes, and he's being kind of his douchey self, and I'm thinking, and of course that always paints a picture in your head, so you're just like, oh, well, you're a douchebag, so obviously you're not that good at what you do because you have to say it out loud. But he actually is really good at what he does. So I was like, oh my gosh. It was a great match to watch. I thought it was a great countdown match. I mean, I thought it was good enough to have been on the main card, to be quite honest, because it was good. It was so good. I was on my feet a lot during this match.
Again, watching Leon Slater just fly out of the ring was one of my highlights. Frankie does pick up the victory here with a La Casita on, as that's what it's called, to Leon Slater. But it seems that these two are going to be feuding again because Leon's like, nah, man, that was bogus. We got to run it back later. Like, you can see both Frankie and Leon like yelling at each other. So I thought this was a fun opener with what we got with the two matches, but now it's time for the meat and potatoes of things, as I like to call it. So we get to the video package. We get to the intro video, if you will, for Genesis. And then, of course, we get our introductions. We have our new ring announcer, Miss Mackenzie Mitchell, who is returning her way back to TNA, which love you mean some Mackenzie. She was over in NXT. Mackenzie was at NXT before we have our current backstage correspondent, Ashley. So I'm happy to see Mackenzie here in TNA. And of course, we are going to be led through all the action of Genesis with Tom Hannafan and the drama king, Matthew Raywald, our two commentators who we love to hear. And we kick things off on the main card with our first match, which is for the X Division Championship. So this sees our challenger, Ace Austin, taking on the champion, Moose. First and foremost, Ace Austin, fantastic. He's in this position. I loved it. It's great. When Moose came out with his entrance gear, I was like, trans rights. Oh, sorry. I wouldn't be surprised, though, because Moose is he's a very good ally. He's always supporting the community, which I love him, but it's like trans rights. So, bold choice Moose in Texas, which is great. Anyways, I did not expect this match went a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and there was a lot more near falls, and I loved it for it. I was like, now I don't really know who's going to win. So what was happening? Because initially I was like, okay, I want Ace Austin to win, but I'm pretty sure Moose is going to retain. And then that got thrown out the window. I'm like, I really don't know who's going to win.
Nope.
So, Will, I want to ask you. So, we know Ace Austin to be a very versatile, acrobatic style of wrestler with the handstands and everything, and then Moose with the power and the speed. we'll talk about the systems interference as we get closer to the finish. But
Yeah.
what did you think of the X Division Championship opening up the main card of Genesis?
Well, I was a little surprised that they opened it up with a title match. I thought one of the other matches would be first, but I was like, heck yeah. I mean, the crowd was like, we went insane. And it was so and one other little thing, and this is a little thing that I laugh about, is that, the announcers are, our announcers over there, Tom Hannafan, and over there, when you're in the live event, you can't hear what they're saying, which is hilarious because I'm just so used to hearing their voices that when it all began, I was like, I see their lips moving, but I don't think their audio equipment's hooked up or something because we're not hearing them. And I'd never put two and two together that their commentary is for the viewers on the television, not for us. And I just thought that was I just laughed. I was like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. But then the match began.
It was a trip to my first live event. I'm like, oh yeah, commentary, you can't hear them.
I know, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, fair enough. But it was quite fun. I mean, this match was so good, and of course I love all the tributes to Chris Bay and and all this. I mean, there was a couple of times. I mean, I don't know. A friend of mine said he heard my voice, but I don't know that I believe him. But because there was one point, I was like, "Do it for Chris! Do it for Chris!" And I was the only one yelling at that point. So I was like, I think maybe it's me. I don't know. But I thought, because that was one of those moments where it was like, I don't know who's going to win this match. I was like, oh crap, is it? Because there were several moments that I thought for sure Chris was about to walk off with it. I really did. Because they're about a little over midway. I mean, Moose started to look a little exhausted almost.
I was going to bring that up too. Moose was looking to almost be gassed by the end of this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's going to pick Chris. Not Chris. Sorry, Ace Austin, who is literally just like bounces off the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a moment. It was hard for Moose to keep up with him. So it was really good. I thought this was a great opener. It had me literally on the edge of my seat. I was just like, oh my God, who's going to win this? Because I was just like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And we were up and down. The crowd was up and down. I mean, it was the energy in that room was so electric.
Yep.
That it intensified every match 1,000 times. So I don't know what it looked like. Again, I don't know what it looked like on television, but in person, it was so good. I mean, I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about any of the matches.
Oh no,
there were some that I thought that I was kind of, and there were some that I was like, oh my God. But overall, I mean, I thought this was a great opener. I mean, man, Moose was on fire, Ace was on fire. There was moments there where both of them were kind of like the gas in their tanks were starting to run out. And so it was cool. It was great. I mean, man, Moose is another one. Huge man. Like, good Lord. I mean, he looks big on television, but in real life, he is just gigantic. He's a freaking giant. And Ace, and this is what's so funny, is seeing a lot of them in person completely blew my perspective of them. Because we'll get into another match and I'll just be like, hello. But even like Ace Austin, he's tall. He's a tall guy. So I was just like, and I never really, watching him on television, he always felt very small in stature, not small like in power, but small in stature. But no, he's a pretty good sized man too. I was kind of surprised. I was kind of like, wow, okay, you're not as small as I thought you were, which is really cool.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, JDC and Alicia Edwards kind of running interference towards the end of this match. Moose ultimately gets the win with a spear and retains the TNA X Division Championship. So I was like, dang. But hopefully, because of shenanigans from the system, that means that I hope we see a rematch between Ace and Moose down the line.
I
So,
do too.
because I'm hoping to see Ace become X Division champion by like this first half of 2025.
Agreed. Now I have a little anecdote during this match.
Do it.
And I think I may have told you about it already, but this is such an endearing little story. It's about my husband, who was sitting right next to me during my up and down. I felt like I was in Catholic church service, and but during this match, the crowd started to chant, "F the system, F the system, F the system," and I was too. And this is so cute and I'm so endearing. My my husband, Michael, he was just like he didn't know what the system was because he's not a wrestler. He a wrestling fan. He's never been to a wrestling event, knows nothing about any of this. And I'm gonna give him a shout out and props because he sat there and he supported me in this and just he took it. He took it. And he asked some questions and then but when they were saying, F the system, he thought they were talking about like the internet was down. And so he was checking his phone. He's like, "Well, my phone's working. My phone's working." And I was like, "No, no, no, no. The system's a faction. They're a faction." So he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I was wondering." He's like, "My phone is fine. It's connected to the internet." So it was a cute little moment. It really was. It was adorable. And so, but yeah. I gave a lesson in wrestling, TNA wrestling to my husband
I
at
love
the
those.
event.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite moments is when you take a non-wrestling fan person to their first wrestling event too. It's a lot of fun. But this was what I loved about what happened is because then we get, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers joining Moose into the ring to try to beat down on Ace Austin, which then led Steve Macklin and Eric Young coming in to make the save.
Yep.
Which then immediately just went straight into our next match. No break, no commercial. We're like, we're going to go back to back with these ones. So our second match of the main card was The System, which is Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, taking on the team of Eric Young and Steve Lockjaw McGraw Macklin.
And
I want to know who has a harder chin line, Macklin or Tessa Blanchard, but we'll talk about her a little bit later.
Fair. That's very fair.
I'm like, girl, we can carve things from your chin.
Seriously.
Like, and that's no shade because Tessa will beat me up.
Oh, I know.
So I didn't know what to expect from this match. Yeah. Sorry,
this is another. Oh, it's okay. I'm just gonna be throwing out my perspective from
I
the
love
event. Oh, okay. I'll tell them that story here in a minute. So that we were booed as we walked out. He wants me real quick. He wants me to tell you when we first got there. We got there 2 hours early, and we wanted to get in line, so we stood in line, and it was freezing cold outside, and of course the event staff were like not letting anyone in, and we were just like, "Oh, you guys suck." Because it was freezing, and we had people had small children with them, and it was ugly, and so that was probably one of my most negative things about the event was that they were like not like anything. They're like, no, you can't come in until the time, and even when we were supposed to be let in, they weren't letting us in, and people were getting rowdy, but we were standing in the line, and this guy comes out, and he's like, if you are general admission, you need to be in this line. If you are reserved, like you have a seat reserved, you need to be in that line over there. And Michael and I like, are you kidding me right now? Like we were standing in the wrong line the whole time. So then we're like, well, that's us. Let's go over there. So we started walking that way, and the people in that general admission line were looking at us like and there was a few people like booing us as we were walking over there. I was just like, and I'm just like, sorry guys, we didn't realize there were two lines. No one said anything. That was the other thing, is like, it didn't say, hey, if you have a reserved seat, go here. It just said, this is the front entrance. So that's why we were just like, oh, well, that's where we are. I have commentary coming from my right. Hold on. That people were being snarky because we were in the rich people's line. You know, because those are the people who bought like the $500 seats.
That's
like
crazy.
Right along the front. Yeah,
right.
Keep the chairs, the souvenir chairs, and all that. But yeah, it was. They were like, yeah. But anyway, we got in. So, but anyway, these guys. Again, Eric Young is a huge man. He's not tall, but he's stocky.
Yes,
Macklin is the same way. Macklin's not tall. He's not as tall as I thought he was going to be. He was much shorter than I thought.
I think his wife Deanna Perazzo, I think, might be a bit taller than him by like an inch or two.
Wow, because he's not tall at all. They came out and I was just like, wow, I'm almost taller than he is. And I'm just like, wow. And then Eddie Edwards is smaller than I thought he was too. I mean, I was just like, oh, my whole perception of everybody was just thrown off, because I was just like, wait a minute, no, you're supposed to be all four of these men, you know, Myers and Edwards and Young and Macklin. I thought they were these big, tall, just like broad, barrel-chested guys, and they're not at all. Which is kind of blew me away. And of course, Alicia is annoying in person just as much as she is on television. Just as much.
We love to see it, though. We love to see it. So I love all of that. And so with these four, I wasn't sure what kind of tag team match we were going to get. Of course, we've seen these four go at it beforehand. So obviously, this match was made because the lead-in is that we've had Macklin and Eric Young, and until he got taken out, Jonathan Gresham taking on the System for like the last couple of weeks, and then poor Gresham got taken out with a chair around his neck, which is crazy.
And something that you guys will probably be thrilled about is Macklin's mouth is not as massive in person as it is on television.
Yes,
it isn't, because I was looking, because the minute he came out, I was like, oh. It's like, man, I don't know what the television is doing to you, my man, but it is making you look like you have like a freaking.
We know that the camera adds like 10 pounds to everybody on television. I feel like the 10 pounds did not go to the body, and they all like migrated up to his jawline.
I guess so. It was
out here looking like a CGI Josh Brolin is Thanos out here.
He was looking like one of those front digger things, you know, those. Such a huge chin and that giant mouth. I mean, I'm thinking he's like digging dirt.
Oh my gosh!
You know what I'm talking about? Those things with the what are they called? An excavator? Not an excavator. It's I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he doesn't. But in person, it doesn't. It's not. It doesn't look as big as it does on television.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. So these four get into the ring. And again, I don't know what kind of match we're going to get. I enjoyed this tag team match. It was actually a lot of fun. Of course, Alicia's running interference and almost gets popped for it, which is kind of crazy to watch. I was like, give me intergenderness. Let's go. And you know what? I think it was the right choice here. Eric Young and Macklin pick up the victory here over the System. So I was like, Moose won. And if we go by the logic with the System, if Moose wins, for the most part, that means that everybody else is losing tonight.
Right. And you know, the other thing about it is the shenanigans that happen, you know, at ringside. They're not as annoying live as they are on television.
Yeah, which I feel like they do it on purpose, because they're supposed to make us annoyed when we watch it on TV.
Because when Alicia was doing all of her stuff, it was great. I was like, oh my God, that's so fun. Oh my God, did you see that? Oh my God, did you see what she did? It wasn't not as opposed to, God, get her out of here. It was literally like, oh my God, what is she going to do next? It is such a different experience.
I think what helps with that too is when you're there live seeing all the shenanigans happen, you're not taken out by the singular, like, focal perspective of the
Right.
cameraman, and we get to see through the camera's lens. And then when you're in
Mhm.
the crowd, you get to see the whole entire
The
arena
whole
in the
thing. Yeah.
360 visual
Yeah.
field of your vision.
Yeah.
So
So
you get to see
Alicia
all the fun
Edwards, she didn't annoy me at
stuff.
all. I mean, she's just as annoying. Her voice is just as annoying, but she
Do
did not
you wanna
annoy
know
me. Yeah.
something?
Oh God. But she didn't annoy me, and I was like, "What? Why isn't she not annoying me?" I was actually kind of like cheering her on at times because I guess you're right. I guess because when we're watching it on the small screen, they're so hyper focused on little aspects of what's happening as opposed to the whole thing. So, but the whole match was so good. Again, it was so good.
I 100% agree. Again, Young and Macklin pick up the victory here. So now I want to prepare everybody because, like most, well, I mean, Will probably figured this out before he went, but of course, we never know the order of matches on pay per views until they actually happen live and in person. So at this point, when I was watching the show, I was also not paying attention to the order because I kept off for the spoilers in terms of like when match orders were happening and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, 2 matches on the main card, they've been pretty solid so far. And so in my head, when I saw that this was next, I immediately thought I was like, oh, Will probably lost his absolute gosh darn mind when this
I
was
did.
the next match. And
I
I'm
did.
just I closed my eyes and imagined everything. I was like, "Oh yeah, he was in heaven during this one," because this was the TNA Knockouts Women's Tag Team Championship match, which saw Spitfire of Danny Luna and Jody Threat, our champions, taking on the House of Elegance, which is Ash and Heather by Elegance, with of course George Iceman, their personal concierge at ringside. First off, shout out to the Elegance girls coming out as Dallas cheerleaders, which was
Yeah.
hilarious to me. I'm just like, yes, ma'ams.
Yep.
Yes, ma'ams. Like, that was
Yep.
great. This is the best match I have seen these four have, like,
Mm.
cohesively together as a 2-on-2. Like, this was so I didn't think I want to preface by saying this. I didn't think this match was going to be bad, but I was like, oh, okay, we're going to get these four women brought it. They
Mm.
brought it. And I was like, well, damn, this was really well.
It was good.
This was solid. And I'm like, okay, give me a rematch down the line. Like, we're not done with this feud.
No, no, not at
Holy
all.
crap, man.
So this is another one of performer perspective. Ash is so small.
I believe she's as tall as I am. If I remember the interview I did with her in New Jersey, I believe she's like as tall as me, and because I'm not very tall myself, or maybe about like an inch or two shorter. But
I
yeah,
was so surprised.
she is short and stocky, but we love her all the same.
Oh my god, absolutely. But I was so surprised to see how short in stature she actually is. Because again, whenever I see her being interviewed or doing some sort of promo, the way they shoot her, it makes her look tall. Like I thought she was going to be this like giant coming out, and when she walked out with uh uh her and Heather walked out, I was just like, wait, what? Wait a minute. They're so cute, by the way, but they're just so small in stature, and I was just like, what the heck? And of course, I was in Gaga land because
Of course, as
Ash,
pretty
but
girls, of course, we love pretty girls. Then on the flip side, you can never
oh
prepare yourself for how built Danny Luna actually is in person. Girl can shred me on her abs. Like, she a great cheese on those things. I'm like, oh
yeah,
my god.
yeah,
Same
they
thing
were
with Jody Thread. I'm like, holy crap, you guys.
yep. It was so good. God, it was so good. Oh my god. And it was one of my favorite matches of the night, and not just because it's Ash, but it was one of, like you're saying, it was one of the tightest matches And oh my God, it was, and there was not a moment where I was not on my feet. I mean, there wasn't a moment, not one. Uh, the minute they came out, I stood, and I think I was taking pictures at that point. I think I may have posted them. I can't remember, but and then I just got lost in it, and then I stood the whole match. I literally stood the whole match, and and I felt sorry for the folks behind me, but I was like, no, I got to see everything. I got to see everything. So yeah, God, it was so good. I mean, Spitfire, they were on fire, man. They were just going. It was super. And again, seeing it live, gosh, you don't you don't understand the sheer power behind some of these wrestlers that just, because the camera's so far away and it's sort of it focuses in, focuses out. You don't see the musculature movements, when they're like grappling each other, picking each other up. I mean, you can see all of their muscles working, and you can see the power. I mean, even Ash and Heather. I mean, when there was a point where Ash, I want to say she picked up Danny Luna, and Danny Luna is a stocky woman. I mean, out of all four of them, she's probably the stockiest, and Ash picked her up, and I could see all of Ash's like abs,
Muscles
like
and
just sort of
flexion.
like you
That's
could
the
just
thing.
see
Like,
it.
despite her gimmick, girl is a bodybuilder just like
She
Jordan
is
too.
built, man. And man, Danny Luna too, man, whenever she and Heather were going at it, I mean, I could see her triceps, just you could see the muscles just going, ugh. Her legs with just her leg muscles, and then I mean, my God. I mean, just watching this match, it gave me such a stronger connection to the women's division, because even though sometimes we see these matches and they feel kind of fluffy, dare I say, and but they're not, guys. They are so these women are powerful. I mean, they are built, and I know some of them don't look like they're built, but they are built. I mean, when Danny Luna, when she was doing her thing, you could see all of her musculature working together. I mean, you saw it, and it was just like, and it's like I'm a stocky guy too, and I've got muscles, believe it or not, underneath all this stock. So when I'm like lifting things, you can see muscles actually like the skin tightening around them, and that's like, man, I mean, I can't put in words how powerful these four women were in this ring.
Yep.
And I mean, Heather's probably the one I know the least truly, but she was like, boom. I was like, God, look at the power in here. And it's so sad that we don't see that in the television episodes, because they sort of like gloss around it, as opposed to the men's are very focused on their bodies and what they're doing. And they need to do this for the women's, because I think if more people, because even the guy that was sitting next to me, he was like, damn girl, look at you. I'm like, exactly. She is strong, man. It's like, it's just like,
Yeah.
you
Side
know,
tangent. I mean, at least in my experiences, wrestling fans like at these events tend to be some of the coolest people to be around with for the most part,
yeah.
unless they get belligerent, but that's a different story. But most of my experience has been really cool. So, but
No, it
I
was so
really,
good.
I love this match. Spitfire does retain their
Yep.
championships here by, the team getting a win by hitting the pressure drop on Ash. But again, I want a rematch. I need I need a rematch,
Mhm.
especially when we get to the TNA episode of what happened, of which, with
Yeah.
Ash and Heather picking up a win on that 2/3 show from last night, which makes me excited. We'll talk
Mhm.
about that when we get there. So this match is fantastic. Of course, I don't know if they played this for you guys, but then the next thing that I ended up getting was a quick backstage segment with Frankie. He puts on over Leon as being in the future of professional wrestling, but says right now it's time for the present. And basically, Kazarian says that he's going to keep an eye out. He's going to keep an eye on the TNA World Title match because if he cashes in his call, because he might cash in his Call Your Shot gauntlet. And it was at this point on my viewing that I was like, Frankie's going to come out during the main event. Good to know. Thanks, TNA. I don't have to be like yelling verbal things at my television when I was not prepared for it because I prepared for it.
Right. It's funny about those little promos, that we see in the television episodes. It's they would play the audio for us.
Nice.
So we can hear the audio, but we have no context to what's actually happening. And it's so funny because they're like, oh, backstage with, so-and-so, so-and-so. And then all of a sudden you'd hear the actual conversations happening. And
that's amazing.
It was funny. It was hilarious. And I was telling Michael, I was like, yeah, see, normally this would be a cutaway and they'd go backstage and you'd see, he's like, okay. I was wondering why we were hearing random people talk about stuff. I was like, yeah, that's what it is. It's like, and also I want to talk on a technical aspect real quick before I forget about it. I love how, like, when we were talking about like the system coming out and then they immediately went into the next match, the shout out kudos to the crew members who work these events, who work the wrestling events let me tell you, when one match was over, they were like in like, and the next match was coming out. I mean, it was so smooth. With the people that come in and sweep the ring, they wipe up any moisture and get the they have one person on all the turnbuckles making sure they're all tightened, one person sweeping, one person making adjusting the skirt. I mean, they're all doing it sort of in a uniform fashion. They all finish at one time, roll out, and then the announcer, she got back in the ring and went on. And it was I mean, even when we get to one of the other matches down the road, it even was like so quick, and it was crazy. So I'm shout out to those guys. I mean, truly. I had to shout out the crew because man, they worked their butts off. And the security guards, they were all these big, muscly gym guys, I think, from either their roadies or from the area. It was so funny to watch. They were all lined up along the side. It was hilarious. Sorry. That's just backstage type stuff that was hilarious. Just hilarious. So anyway, back to these guys, which were amazing, by the way. These guys were amazing. This match made me so angry. You're muted.
Woo, okay, so this one's gonna be a tough one to talk about because we're gonna start with the good, but also Dallas, Texas, like the crowd was not gonna let Miss Blanchard forget what had happened before. So before we get into everything and talk about the match and talk about all the stuff, I want to put this up on the screen. So this gets thrown out when we're about to talk about some things that are a little bit touchy and also what might cause some discourse online. So we want to keep the conversations respectful. We love and appreciate the viewpoints that agree with us, but also that differ and are opposite of us. We are here to have a discussion, so please be kind in the chat. Don't be mean to each other, even if somebody disagrees with, because I am going to flip-flop more than a pancake when it comes to going back and forth of how I felt about all this. So, therefore, you have been warned. And now, with that out of the way, let's get into the match itself. So, Jordan Grace versus Tessa Blanchard in a singles match. Jordan comes out, new hairstyle, which I love to see, loving it. Tessa comes out, girl is booed to high heaven, which I'm like, we knew that was gonna happen. Like, we know this is gonna happen. I wasn't expecting it to be as loud. I was like, all right, this is gonna be the true test. Let's see who remembers. This whole entire crowd remembered everything that went down last time. Now, I want to talk about the match itself, and then we're gonna get into the confliction I feel. The match itself was a banger, as the kids say.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really love this match. And of course, this is Jordan's last match in TNA because now reports are that she is heading towards NXT and WWE. And I would not be surprised if she makes her way into the Rumble next weekend on that pay-per-view. But yeah, these two, and I'm pretty sure there was some real life animosity, but these two were beating the tar out of each other like they for real did not like each other. Like Jordan tossing Tessa all over the place, Tessa trying to decapitate Jordan in different places too. Like, this was an awesome match to watch. The crowd, though, we gotta okay, I'm gonna save this moment. So, and Will, you know what moment we're gonna talk about, what the crowd did during this match. So we'll talk about all that. But that aside, what did you think about seeing? Well, because we're both also familiar with Tessa because she's been on our CMLL screens for the last 6 months since we've been covering her too. So
True.
okay. So how did you feel about Jordan versus Tessa, the backstage stuff, and then together we'll talk about the chant that occurred?
Yeah. So I did not participate in any of that because I don't know enough about it. So, and I don't, therefore I am not going to pass judgment unless I know what's going on. So I just listened and went, okay. When Tessa walked out, it was so cool to see her live in person since I mostly know her from CMLL. And, seeing her in the ring and, this. And I don't know if girl's been working out since she left CMLL, but she was like, she was ripped. I'm like, she looked thinner, like more muscular thinner than she did when she was at CMLL. And that might be because, training, whatever, because of things, I don't know. But she looked good. I'll give it to her.
She toned the physique. Yeah.
She did. She looked good. And man, she's got that stare, just that look when she walked out. And I was just like, oh, girl, you're here to cause some trouble. I was like, and I love it. And then it was so cool to see Jordan Grace live. That was probably one of the highlights of my evening was to see her live. I've always wanted to see her live ever since I first met her or it was introduced to her. I was like, God, I bet she's just, amazing live. And she is.
In person. Like, those muscles are not for show.
No, not at all. And I was just like, when she came out, I was like, damn. I know I got pictures of these two ladies. I know I did. I was like, must get pictures. Oh my God. And I may have gotten a little bit of video from their match too, but wow, this match being live, watching this match, it felt personal. And this is another one I don't think I sat down once. I think I stayed up in my feet the whole time. God, it was, again, talk about the power. Talk about power. Both of these women, I mean, we already know Jordan Grace is a powerhouse. We know she's just like full of power. We know that she's got a lot to back her, her physicalness. We know she's got the power behind it. And I know what I know about Tessa because of CMLL. But to see her in the ring fighting with Jordan, man, she kicked those power cells into high gear and just was whooping on her. And Jordan was whooping back. I mean, it wasn't like a teardown, but it was, man, it
these
was
two girls
crazy.
were giving each other receipts left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And from that aspect, I really loved the match. I did have to pause for a couple of minutes once I started hearing the crowd yell at Tessa, she's a racist. And I had to sit there and I had a whole like existential crisis. I was like, because on the one hand, I was there when the original stuff went down. And I was like, yeah, we can't be doing this. But I'm also a person that believes in second chances. Of course, so far, TNA hasn't done anything to try to kind of sweep Tessa's last residency here in TNA under the rug yet. So I commend them. And, I was more relieved because I was wondering, I was like, I wonder how TNA is going to present her on Thursday when we got the announcement during the show that she's going to be there Thursday. And then after watching the episode Thursday, and we're going to talk about it, I was like, oh, okay, they're going to have her be a heel. Perfect. This is great. So they're like, yeah, no, we're not trying to make her a baby face. We're going to let her be a heel. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So at the time, though, I was like, damn, Texas, I'm trying to watch this match. Like, you all got to calm down. But I understand and I don't disagree, but
it was, but speaking on that,
but Tessa kind of was just like, all right, it's part of the game. Let's do this.
Yeah, she didn't let it bother her at all. She's like, okay, whatever. She's like, I'm here to do something and I'm going to do it. But the funny thing about it is I was kind of shocked because, Dallas is I mean, Texas is a red state. I mean, we are. I was kind of surprised that so many people were saying what they were saying. I mean, truly, I was very surprised.
Fun fact, and this is not a generalization, but there have been studies done, even in red states, and this is just more of a like socioeconomical, psychological kind of study degree. So don't take this with like all the grains. Take this with a grain of salt, if you will. Even in red states, more metropolitan areas tend to be. How do I put this nicely? They're more aware of the, cognizance of diversity and stuff like that, even if state legislations don't necessarily agree with certain things. But no, that was my immediate thought too. I'm like, Texas, you're a red state. I'm expecting y'all to be weird. But I was like, but then again, I feel like wrestling fans can be part of like marginalized group in a weird way because we're not like regular sporting fans. We're not football fans. We're not the Americanized, like the corporatized versions of like sports people. But even still, I was like, damn, on a whole pay-per-view. And I watched the replay. They didn't edit that out anything.
No.
Which I thought they were going to.
But here in Texas, like big metropolitan areas for the most part are red. The only one that's not in the state of Texas is Austin. So I was very surprised. And I was pleasantly surprised because 9 times out of 10, when you look at, and this is not a generalization, I know because I lived it, and I'm just so everybody knows that when I tell you what I'm about to tell you, I lived it. Okay, most of the fans that go to like wrestling are the same fans that go to like monster truck rallies, NASCAR, those sort of things. They're sort of on the lower socioeconomic scale and not always on the highest on the sort of intellectual scale. And I say that because I come from a poor family, and you know what? We used to go to monster truck rallies. We used to go to NASCAR, not NASCAR, but we had a racing track. We could go to that. We would go to tractor pulls. We went to wrestling events, and it was that. And it was very red leaning. I'm not, by no means I'm getting political at all. I'm not, but it just has that tendency to be that because of that idea of who goes there. Now, over the years, we've started to see that shift. So we're starting to see a lot more of those sort of open-minded wrestling fans, over open-minded trucking fans, over open-minded car racing, tractor pulls. I mean, you're starting to see more of it, and I think that's great. So that's why when it happened, I was like, "Way to go, Dallas!" Because 4 years, 5 years ago, that would probably not have happened in Dallas.
No. So, and to kind of close out my statement of being caught off guard with that, I did have a conversation with Andrew. So, Andrew and I'm gonna be honest, Andrew and Will and the rest of the BC Wrestle podcast do. I love them because they help me dissect all this information. And Andrew's just like, look, we knew going into this that Tessa was going to be a touchy subject, especially when she returned by attacking Rosemary and Jordan at Final Resolution back in December. So we knew what we were signing up for. Now, all we got to do is see, now that she's in this new run for TNA, let's see how she does here. And if any of the same patterns of behavior show their way through. But I'm just like, I agree. So Tessa's in-ring is fantastic. Like, she does beat Jordan Grace. That her finisher, that Magnum Code Breaker, is a thing of beauty, I have to say. Like, holy shit. Girl is like, I think Jordan, like, I think we decapitated Jordan. Like, now she's just not here no more. Like, what?
But I was so bummed that Jordan lost her
know.
last match.
I know, but the tendency is if you're on your way out, you put someone over, and so you tend to lose your match. Unless you're Sting and you get to retain your AEW tag team. Listen, I don't care though. I'm glad he retained because that match was fun with him and Darby versus the Young Bucks at Revolution last year. That's a whole different company. Tune on Tuesdays to see those reviews. But I was excited. Like, I was hooping and hollering during the match. I'm like, okay, like, these girls brought it. Like, I don't know what can possibly happen next. Holy shit, Batman. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was not ready. I mean, I knew we were getting an I Quit match and I knew they were going to do some crazy shit, but I was not ready. And well, you might disagree with me, but this is my match of Genesis.
No, this was actually my match too. This was
my match of the card. My moment of the card comes way down later in the main event for obvious reasons, but in-ring wise, this was my match, and right now it is sitting at number 1 for me in 2025, which is really hard because it's tied with Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd from Japan earlier. I was like, we're on day 19 of January. Like, why are we putting out bangers so early in the year? When you talk about a war, my goodness. Let me set the stage. So this is an I Quit match between Josh Alexander, the current standard of TNA, and Mike Santana, who is dubbing himself as the new standard of TNA. So literally, that is the story that has been told between these two. Josh doesn't think Mike Santana has what it takes to be the big man that the company's going to build, the company man, if you will. And Mike Santana basically has told Josh every step of the way, I think you're full of shit. I'm going to run through you and your little goon squad. Got beat up in the gauntlet match due to shenanigans because Mike Santana almost had that thing won. And then, to make it an even ground, decided to challenge Josh Alexander. So they were getting a match anyways, but then up the ante by having Josh agree to an I Quit match. And that is exactly what we got. Oh my gosh. We got table spots. There was weapons involved. We got steel steps, blood, like the Mike Santana flipping into a table was crazy outside the ring.
The zip ties.
He was about to curb stomp the teeth into the thing to finally make Mike finally getting Josh to quit through that way. This was a symphony of carnage.
It was.
And I loved every single minute of this. And Mike Santana wins. I'm not going to lie. I cried a little bit. I was like, oh my God, TNA actually did it. They're letting him win.
Yep.
They had him win. And then what happened on Thursday? I think now he's going to be one of the pillars of 2025's men's division, which makes me excited. But Will, you got to witness this carnage live. Like, just tell me.
It was brutal. It was, and it was so great because going from beginning to end, whatever, Josh walks out, like he does down the ramp, whatever, and it was so cool seeing him live. And he's a big dude too, by the way. He's really tall. And it was the funny thing about it is when Mike's music came on, everyone turned to look at the ramp, and I'm like turning to look out into the crowd. Because I'm like, where is he?
Right, because we know he always makes his way through the crowd for his entrance.
And sure enough, he did. He was up to my left, and he came down, came right across in front of me. It was so cool. He was like right there, 3 rows away from me. I could see him, and it's just they're so much bigger in real life. At least I think they are. They felt both of them just felt huge. And then the match started. And again, this is another one. I was on my feet the whole time. I almost went hoarse during this match because I was yelling and screaming so much. And poor Michael was sitting down. He was just like, "Oh God." But yeah, it was carnage. It was just pure, absolute carnage. And then when Josh threw tables and he threw the stairs up on the ring, and I was like, "What is going on right now?" And then Mike put himself through that table onto Josh in the corner, and then the zip ties, and he zip tied his hands behind his back. He grabbed him, and that curb when he was getting ready to curb stomp him. I was just like, my brain was just exploding because I was like, the brutality of it. And then when he's like, "I quit," and I was just like, thank God. Because I was just like, what is about to happen? I was like, I'm literally about to see Mike Santana murder Josh Alexander in this ring. And and then the whole thing that happened afterwards. Even though I kind of felt something like that was coming, but man, when it happened, the crowd was just like, what?
Yeah, so what we're referring to is after the match, Mike Santana gets on the mic and he basically tells the crowd, it's like, "I did what I said I was going to do in this match. Now, Josh, you better hold up your end of the bargain. You need to get over here and shake my hand." And so Josh shakes his hand, tells Mike that he is the new standard of TNA. He made him quit in this match, and now Josh Alexander has decided to exit the chat and quit TNA as well.
Drops the mic.
Of course, we've been knowing because Josh's contract is up fairly soon. But even there, I was like, I appreciate you, Dallas, for playing along because I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, how this gonna play out on television? So Josh has quit TNA after this match. He literally just passed the torch to Mike Santana, and I don't care if anybody says otherwise. This was the passing of the torch moment. Our TNA World Champion, which we'll talk about when we get to him in the main event, and Mike Santana, I think are going to be very important figures for 2025 in TNA, leading the charge. Also, the new additions don't hurt either, and we'll talk about those towards the end when we quickly recap the Thursday show. But holy crap, this was an amazing match. This was mine and Will's match of the card, or the match of the night. Like this was so good. And the funny thing is that, spoiler alert, I don't think there was a single match that I was like, "Oh, this was trash." I was like, there are some matches I like more than others, but the whole show was really solid.
Yeah. And when Josh was exiting, everyone was just like, everyone's mouths were just open, just like, what just happened? Like literally, looking at him, thinking maybe he was going to turn around and like say something smart ass, like, "I was just fucking with you" or whatever. but we were all like, are you gonna say psych? Just kidding.
Right.
No, oh no.
Yes, John
No.
Smith in the chat. Yes, I agree with you. Me and
Yeah.
Will both want more of Santana. John, I don't know, new fan, I believe. If I haven't seen you before, and if you have been here before, I apologize. But no, I agree with you. And to kind of catch you up on the speed of why we agree with you, we said at the end of December, and during last week's show, Mike Santana, since returning to TNA in April at Rebellion this in 2024, I think he has, within the short span, built himself up as a very top character for TNA. And his in-ring is always really fun. His character work is great. Mike's skills fantastic. Mike Santana just oozes an aura that TNA has been, I don't want to say lacking, but a lot of their characters started to blend together. And Mike Santana is just being Mike Santana, like for real. Like there's no character. What you see is what you get, and it's just different. And Mike Santana is not afraid to go where he needs to. And I'm just like, yes, give it to me. Oh, but go for it.
I predict. I'm doing a prediction here. I predict that Mike Santana is going to take the title from Moose.
Yes,
I really think that's where they're going to go with him first, and then
give him an X Division championship,
and Joe as the top 2 belt holders. Single belt holders.
Right. So it doesn't seem we're getting a pay-per-view in February. So I can see that title change happening at Sacrifice. I can also see them waiting until the next big 4 of Rebellion to give Mike the X Division championship.
Yeah.
I would love to see that so much. But again, incredible match all the way through.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you. Your first visit to the BC Wrestle Pod universe.
Welcome.
So, John, really quickly, I don't know how I could give it a couple seconds. So, John, really quickly, thank you for tuning in. We cover WWE, AEW, TNA, GCW, MLW. We just this year are covering Stardom, New Japan. We're covering a lot, and of course, we're also adding Progress Wrestling and whatever else we feel like too. So we're covering and watching a lot of stuff. So we love wrestling. We're not biased. We cover everything as fairly as possible, and we're just a bunch of folks on the internet who love wrestling. So I'm glad the universe has brought us to you. So thank you for being here. We really do appreciate you. And thank you for the comments too. We love responding to you. And so hopefully we keep you entertained with the rest of our show. So let's keep going because we go from this. And again, I didn't know what to expect from this particular match. I fucking love this match.
It was so good. Oh my God. It was so good. I mean, I can't even. This is again. I am beginning to love the Rascals, more, and as well as the Hardys. And this is another fun little anecdote I have to tell you about my husband. When they were talking about the Hardy Boys, they're like, the Hardy Boys are this, and Michael's like, the Hardy Boys. He's like, the Hardy Boys are going to be here, and I was like, oh no, honey, not the Hardy Boys like mysteries. This is like the Hardy brothers. They call them the Hardy Boys, but he was thinking like Hardy Boys, like Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, and which was just
why that hasn't been a wrestling tag team yet needs to be.
I know, right? Seriously,
have a tag team that solves mysteries.
Yeah, oh my God, that'd be great. That's when they need to bring Noam back, and when we get over to NXT, Noam needs to come back and be there.
Anyways, yeah.
Anyway, back to my comment. But the seeing these guys live and in person just changed my whole being. When the Rascals came out, I was just like, I love them even more now. And I'm hoping, and I really, really hope they go back to the way they used to be. Back to their sort of shenanigan-y kind of, street punk You know, that sort of I loved them in that phase, even though I hated them because I was supposed to. I just really want them to go back to that. Now that Trey's back in the fray and they're kind of back together and doing their thing, I really, really, really do hope that we get a fun, silly, shenanigan-y Rascals again. And then to see the Hardys live, I take anything I have ever said negative
When that
about
mu
them
when
back.
that music hits, the crowd is invested from
Holy
second
God.
one.
Holy goodness.
It
The
is one of those
energy.
wrestling themes that is, like, iconic in wrestling
Yeah.
history.
The energy when it hit, the energy in that room shifted so hard. And watching these two men wrestle live gives me a whole new respect for them. And when they were walking out, I was giving them their symbol, and Joe was like, "Boom!" right back at me. I was like, "Oh my God, he totally did that to me." I was like, because I was the only one doing it. I was the only one standing at that time,
Matt
and
and Jeff
it
are
was
so good at,
so
like, interacting
awesome.
with fans. They know how
Oh,
important fans are.
it was so. I mean, it gave me goosebumps. I was so thrilled. But this match, man, it was so good. These two teams, these four men, man, I again watching them on like the small screen does not tell the full story. You do not get the full story.
Mhm.
Watching it live, watching Trey, or well, when Trey and I think it was Joe, one of the Hardys, I can't remember which one it was. They had this moment center ring that I think was one of the Hardys was about to like body slam him or something. I can't remember what it was, but there was this wonderful moment between the two of them where they locked eyes, and I
Mhm.
caught it, and I was just like, the camera never catches those moments.
Nope.
You know, and it's just like you see, and then of course the Rascals, man, they work so well together. They are like a well-oiled machine, and I love that they stepped right back into it now that Trey's come back. So there isn't any of that like rustiness. It didn't feel rusty. It felt like,
Nope.
we did it yesterday. Let's do it again today. And I love how the Hardys. I love how they can play a crowd.
Oh,
Man,
man.
they're good at it.
Both of our vets of this industry, so
Oof.
I love it. They know what that they need to do. And of course
Oof.
the crowd is so behind the Hardys given their
Mhm.
legacy of the last like 20 years in wrestling for other promotions and stuff like that. So,
Oh, it was
oh,
so good. Oh,
I love this match. And again, we talked about this on our review of the Go Home show, and it still stands even in this match. The Hardys do win, so they retain their tag team championships, but the Hardys are never afraid to give it all they have to also
mhm.
make their opponents look fantastic. Like the Rascals, even though they lost, they still looked really great as a team in this match, and the Hardys did a good job of complementing the Rascal style to their own, which is weirdly similar now that I think about it
Yeah.
in different aspects. But this was a lot of fun, and
And
I agree with you too, Will. I was like, the more that we've seen the Hardys since they came to TNA, am like, I like this version of the Hardys, which
mhm.
of course lets me know is like we know, and they have said it multiple times that they're on their final run. So we're probably going to see them retire in like 2-3 years. So I'm enjoying this ride because they also look like they're having fun, and I think that's important too. Because if you're having fun, we're gonna have fun.
You know, and when you watch them on television, because I've been guilty of this, is it's like, gosh, they move like they're older. Like they
Hmm.
feel older. But
Yeah,
watching
like John
them,
says, is like they're still
yeah.
going.
But when I was watching them in this match, they felt young to me. Like, they were so, and I think it's because the crowd was invested in them, but I felt like this was 4, like, young wrestlers going at each other. Because never once did I think Matt or Jeff look their age. Not once. because they were doing it. They were dishing it out as much as they were taking it, and there was never a falter. There was never a let me get up off this floor. They were just like up and out and doing their thing, and it was insane. This had me on my feet the whole night, the whole match. It was so good.
It definitely was. And I was just like, this was smart to have this towards the tail end of the card, because the energy that this created definitely helped with the remaining 2 matches, which we get into our semi-main event.
Well, then of course Fraxium came out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's go back to this real quickly.
Yeah, Fraxium
because Fraxium came to watch this match. The Rascals kind of like accidentally everybody accidentally ran into Fraxium, which we then get announced that we would get the NXT Tag Team Championships defended on TNA television against the Rascals with Fraxium. And I'm just like, wrestling in 2025 is amazing. I was like, yes.
That was really cool seeing them as well.
It's like, are we watching Hardy clones? I'm like, exactly, because they still give the same energy and everything. And I'm just like,
so good.
Look, I know we know that sometimes nostalgia acts, like when people who are no longer in their prime like come back and do these wrestling bits, like the wrestling legends and stuff like that. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily work out. I feel like the Hardys are one of the few that do this well. I still hold them and Billy Gunn as like, this is how you're going to currently do your older wrestling before you retire stuff. Just have fun with it. Yeah. So,
and I'm one of those folks that, when they first took the titles, I was like, this is a mistake. And now I don't want them. I don't want them to lose them. I want them to keep them forever.
At least not anytime soon. Yeah,
I want them to retire and go. I guess we should give these back to you guys. I literally, because like I'm not even kidding. When they were in that ring, to me it felt like they stepped back in time and they like aged down to like their 20s, because they were wrestling like they were like young, and it was so incredible to watch. I mean, it really was. It was an honor to watch. I won't even lie. It was an honor to watch them wrestle. Matt and Jeff, if you're listening, thank you. Truly, it was incredible.
And that's what we love to see here. So now let's get into our semi-main event, because this match was also nuts. So this was a TNA Knockouts World Championship match in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match, which essentially is weapons being, everywhere, and for basically this being a no DQ. These girls out the gate. So we have our champion Masha Slamovich defending her title against challenger Rosemary. We talked about the confessional that was on the Go Home show that we absolutely loved. Immediately, they didn't waste no time, because these two went to tear each other to pieces. And this was also just a fun like spot match. Like, there was a staple gun, we had tables, we had the reappearance of Rosemary's friend Janice come out.
Yeah, they got broken.
I was just like, and then of course, Masha hitting a requiem on a stack of chairs to Rosemary for the win. Like, while this match wasn't as crazy as the I Quit one, this still was just as fun. And these two were like, okay, let's see how we can one up each other.
Yeah, they did the thumbtacks right behind us on the stage behind us when they because there was this moment where Rosemary walked out and then came back with the red bag, and she poured them all. They were literally on the little stage right behind us. We were all like turning around to watch. It was like, and they were like, and then eventually they both went down into the thumbtacks, and it was just like, and Michael was like, was that real? I was like, yeah, those are real thumbtacks that are in her back right now. You can see them. And he was like, oh my gosh.
We call that bonus pay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now, go ahead.
Go for it.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I will say that this was probably my weakest match of the night. And I only say that for one reason, is that it felt slower. It felt slow. It was exciting all the cool stuff. The staple gun at the beginning, and then Janice came out, and the funny moment when she broke her. It was funny too, and then she like took the handle and threw it away, and then used the nail end, and was just like, and then the thumbtacks and the ladder and all that. The only thing that bugged me is they didn't use all the weapons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the Clockwork Orange fun matches don't use all the weapons, but I wish they used more.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with you. I feel like that's my only nitpick is I wish they used more weapons, but we still got a lot of fun spots out of it.
We did. I took some video of this one too.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was a good match, guys. Don't get me wrong. It was great. It was in my lower quadrant.
But still solid though.
But no, super solid because it was super fun. We had a great time. We were on our feet. We were yelling. We were chanting. We were this. We were that. I mean, we were all over it. We were like, grab this, grab that, grab this, grab that. And everything. So we were having a grand old time. I had the best time. But I was just like, it'd be on my lower end of my list.
It was great.
It was.
So Masha does pick up the win here. She's celebrating in the ring. And then, of course, see, Will is part of all the stuff here at BC WrestlePod that was relevant to this episode, because then we get the familiar music of Welcome to the Generation of Jade, because then Cora Jade from NXT hits the ramp, gets into the ring, and has a stare down with Masha Slamovich. And I'm like, this is an answer from when Masha and her had that little bit of an like stare down on NXT television leading into the pay-per-view. And then we're going to talk about what happened on this week too, because I'm just like, we are getting a Masha and a Cora Jade. We are setting this matchup at some point, and I'm like, yes, Cora versus Masha, give it to me right now. It's going to be so good. I think it's going to be it's so fun.
That was a good moment too, because she just slowly walked down there. It was so like, I was like, oh, something's about to happen. And then it was a stare down, man. And it was so cool. So cool. I was like, you go, girl. Mm-hmm. You go.
Yeah. I love the match. I cannot wait to see where we get Cora versus Masha, and I'm super excited. So before everything goes down, we go back to the ramp. Santino Marella, the best authority figure in any wrestling promotion. Fight me on that. No, Santino has just found a way to just make everything so much funner, and I'm happy that he's our authority figure in TNA. But he's up there with, the Gia Miller and the Busted Open crew making predictions about the main event. But then they get interrupted by Mr. Hollywood Hunk himself, Ryan Nemeth, who says that Nick is going to win. Santino's like, nah, you're getting bad for this main event. We ain't about to have what went down at Bound for Glory be a part 2. So then security like comedically take him out, which is funny. And then by process of elimination, once we saw that went down, you immediately knew in your heart and your head what was to remain.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so TNA World Championship, Nick Nemeth versus Joe Hendry.
So I have a question real quick before we get into this match.
Sure, what's up?
When you were watching the pay-per-view, did you see the part with Ryan and his ticket? Did they show that? Did they show it?
I think it appeared on the social medias, yes, but they didn't show it on the show.
Y'all, it was so funny when Santino banned him from the building. Santino's like, I'm banning you from the building, and then that's when they drug him out. And then they're in, Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth they come in, and where we were sitting to our back left, here comes Ryan Nemeth. He comes walking in. He's got this thing in his hand, and he's showing it to everybody. And he's like, my ticket. I went and got a ticket. And they sat him down in that corner down there. And he kept showing people this, which was obviously a fake ticket because it had his face on it. It was so funny. And he was just like, yeah. And everyone over there was just like, dude, you're a wackadoodle. And but it was so funny. It was hilarious. He just comes strolling in. He's like, I got my ticket and I'm sitting right here. And he sat right there at that corner, and it was so funny. So I didn't know if they showed that on the pay-per-view or not, because man, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. So anyway.
Anyways, so but no, let's talk about this main event time.
Oof, oof.
TNA World Championship match. Champion Nick Nemeth, challenger Joe Hendry. Joe couldn't get the job done at To Bound for Glory, and he couldn't get it done. And so here we are. He won the he won the number one he won the number one contenders match, Fatal 4-Way at Final Resolution, and here we are. So this match was everything I wanted it to be. This was a really great match, and then I do believe the in-ring was actually a lot better too than Bound for Glory, because putting the feelings aside of Joe not winning at Bound for Glory, the in-ring felt like there were pieces missing, and you and Andrew kind of talked about that. This match, I feel like, corrected a lot of that, and even the shenanigans towards the end didn't take me out of it like it did for Bound for Glory.
Mm-mm.
Like, I really enjoyed it.
I agree. I thought this match was pretty seamless, even with I thought the funny thing about this one, and I don't know if it's because I was live or what, but the shenanigans and the match itself felt like fluid. It felt like a solid, like, single story, as opposed to a story's going on and then you throw a match on stage. It all felt like part of it. So it didn't take me out of it at all, even live. And because I was watching the whole picture, the whole, like I said, with the whole time on Ryan was sitting to my left over here, and I would watch it. I'd look over at him every once in a while to see if he was going to get up and do something, and he didn't. He stayed there until things happened. But this match felt personal, and not personal as in they have beef with each other, but personal as in Joe Hendry was like, I have a personal stake in this match. Nick, I have a personal stake in this match. The stakes in this match were so much higher than they were at Bound for Glory. And I mean, so much higher. And you could feel it in the air. You could feel it in the energy in the room, in the fans. And I had my I Believe in Joe Hendry shirt on, and I was singing along and waving my hands. I bought into it. Yes, I did, because I freaking love his whole thing. And I know a lot of people think it's cheesy, and it is cheesy, but I think it's meant to be cheesy. That's what's so great about it. That's what makes him so lovable. It's what makes him just so, you want him to be this. And we have, and Mikey, you can attest, we have from beginning since the split up of Joya. We have
been we have been following this journey for Joe Hendry to get to this match here at Genesis since the day that he wasn't like the current blonde that he was either.
Right, true. And it was just so good. God, it was so good. And I was so happy that I got to be there for that victory. It will be a memory that it's like a core memory, man. I saw Joe Hendry win that title. I saw it happen, and it was the most emotional moment ever. The crowd, Joe, I mean, we were all there. and I don't know if they showed this on the pay-per-view, him going down and hugging. Did they show him? I'm assuming are his parents.
Yeah, somebody or someone special to him.
Yeah, whoever those two people were, he went down and hugged them. They were literally like 2 rows right in front of us. They were literally like right there. So Joe Hendry like walked right towards us and was just like, "Come, I'll hug you. Here, I'll hug you." Because I was emotional. Everyone around me was emotional. I mean, the whole event center was just. I mean, when that you heard the whole event center counting down that 1, 2, 3, and then it just opened up. I mean, it was a moment I will never forget. Truly. I will never forget it.
No, and this was a big moment. So really quickly to kind of go through the finishing sequence, Frankie Kazarian does come out to try to cash in his Call Your Shot trophy, but then Mr. John Bradshaw Layfield comes out, hits a clothesline from hell on him, and then proceeds to also rock, with get Ryan Nemeth gets laid out by Mr. JBL as well. And then that was it. No, nothing else. We went through a couple of false finish spots, and then that 1, 2, 3, your winner and new TNA World Champion Joe Hendry. Will, you talked a little bit about the celebration and how the arena was feeling, and what a way to end Genesis then with Joe Hendry with that title being, paraded around with the crowd. It was fantastic. So this brings us. So don't go anywhere don't change that dial, viewers, because we will quickly be going through TNA in the episode from this past Thursday before we log off for the evening. But my quick thoughts, just like I felt about TNA Hard to Kill last year, Genesis, I think, really did a good job of establishing what direction TNA is looking to go towards in 2025.
Yeah, I hope
This
so.
was a really shard.
It was so good.
John
Yeah.
Smith, your guess is as good as ours. This has been, and it's not just TNA. Okay, let me put on my conspiracy hat for a little bit, right? So JBL has been doing this shtick. He's been running through TNA, GCW, AAA, so that's AAA, the Lucha Libre company in Mexico. And he's also been running through Hog and other independent promotions too. And we still haven't gotten a development on any of this. And this has been a running thing for like months now. And we still don't know. So your guess is as good as ours, my friend. Also, even though I didn't put it on screen, I do agree with you that Joe Hendry is easy on the eyes.
Even my husband thought so.
So we'd love to see it. But again, for me, Genesis was such a strong start, and it has made me hopeful for TNA in 2025. And it makes me excited to see where TNA and NXT, because they're going to be working a lot more together with this multi-year partnership of everything. So, Will, before we get into our quick recap of TNA's episode from last night, I want to hear from you. This was your first live pay-per-view event ever, and the fact that it, was TNA made it even better. So I want you to give your thoughts about your overall experience and the pay-per-view of itself.
Okay. Well, as you guys, as you know, and as I think most people know, I used to go watch wrestling with my dad when I was younger. We used to go into Houston to the Astrodome, and I don't even remember who. I don't remember what company it was, but I remember I would go with my dad and we'd watch wrestling. And then my dad got, to the point where I went, or not my dad, I grew up and went off to college and, other things were going on. We never got a chance to go again. And then my dad passed away. So, and I just never even thought about going back to wrestling. I was just like, well, whatever. I would watch a little bit of it, and I'm just like, it just isn't what it used to be. And then I met Mikey, and Mikey sort of brought me back into the fold, you might say. And even then, I was very sort of weary about it. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. Why not? But I mean, I wasn't expecting to stay. It was like, yeah, I'll come and I'll watch one, because I can't imagine that it is anything like it used to be. And and those are core memories I had with my dad. And it was like, and I started to feel guilt because I still went back to watch wrestling without my dad, and I was just like, oh. And so this is the very first live event I've been to since the like 1980s, like truly. And it was and I got to experience it with my husband, which was truly awesome. Even though I think he was bored through most of it, but that's okay. You know, he stuck with it. Funny thing, before I get back into my feelings, when we were all standing up, and I was like, "Oh, you can stand up with us if you want to." He's like, "No, no, 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 no." He's like, "This is your thing. You do your thing." He's like, "I'm watching it on this guy's phone in front of me." Because this guy was like constantly had his phone up, so he's watching the whole event basically on this guy's phone. So but anyway, so back to my feelings of it. I think that it brought back a lot of emotion, a lot of memory. It was a little tough at first because I was like, oh, my and I even told Michael a couple of times. I was like, man, my dad would love this. He would have loved this. He would have loved this particular brand. I think. I think he would have really, really gotten into TNA. Because it's people like Jake Something. See, Jake Something reminds me of like 1980s wrestlers. He reminds me of like the Hacksaw Jim Dugans and the Rowdy Roddy Pipers and those guys. He really does. And so TNA has a lot of that, and I think that's why I kind of latch onto it more so than any of the others, because it does kind of have that feel of when I was a kid. And even Michael commented, he's like, "You looked so young when you were watching it," and I was like, "Yeah, I was because I was literally transported back to when I was a kid, and I was just like, ah." So it was an extremely emotional evening, and on our way home, we talked about it, and we talked about me and my dad and I, and how this sort of correlated, and so this is something, and then Michael was like, "Hey, keep checking. If they come back to Texas, just we'll get tickets and go again. We'll get tickets and go again." So there we got it. So I've got him in there. So he's going to be taking me whenever, wherever. But
Hey, it's the same. I feel you on that for the same reasons too. So, I mean, everybody here, host wise, and then fan wise too, and even our friends to the channel now. Like this, I have the similar story, except your dad gets replaced with my grandma, who was during the pandemic was the person who would end up watching it with me because she used to watch Lucha Libre as a little girl because Southern California and also being born and bred Mexican too is just like at the same time. And she was my everything. And so now I'm excited because I get to share that with my mom because, I got to take her to her first AEW event, knows nothing about any wrestling terms or anything, doesn't watch the weekly show, but she just wanted to go because she resonated with Thunder Rosa and how proud of a, Mexican American Thunder puts her culture on display during her matches, and she's like, "I want to go." So it's so fantastic, and I'm excited
yeah,
because now that was a regular just TV show. I'm excited in April because I get to take my mom to Rebellion in Los Angeles. So this is a big 4 pay-per-view for TNA. So I get to share a big 4 pay-per-view with my mom. So I'm super excited, and I'm super excited. You get to share it with your, husbando. I get to share it with my mom, and that's why I love professional wrestling. And TNA Genesis, I think, is such a great starting point for people who are looking to get into TNA because I feel like even if you don't know the stories, the in-ring action will hook you because I think Genesis does a good job of offering different types of things that we get to see on a weekly basis in TNA. Like, love you.
right.
Yes, John, more good wrestling for us. 100% agreed.
Yes. So yeah. So
So,
that was my overall feelings of it, and overall pay per view. I mean, being there live, I give it 10/10. I mean, I'd go even beyond that if I could, but it
to
was
infinity and
it
beyond.
was so good. There wasn't. I don't think there was a poor match in the evening. I thought all the matches were fantastic. They were hot. They were on fire. All the talent was at their peak. I mean, stories were being told. I mean, it was great. I mean, it was. I spent
Right.
most of the night on my feet.
That was great. So, of course, as the person who does the report cards, I do have to give my official lettering. I gave this a B plus, which is like a good 8.75 out of 10 for me if we're going to use a numerical scale. And those points that are missing are not because I thought anything was horrible. It's just that obviously nothing can be perfect, but this definitely has me excited for TNA in 2025. So I love this. This was a lot of fun. So just as I also had fun watching last night's TNA episode. So we're gonna end this by going through the bullet points. So we're not gonna spend like too much detail on everything, but we're gonna give our quick thoughts. So this was a live edition of TNA, which was unfortunately bugged with some production problems that would persist through the evening with some audio issues and stuff like that. But it was still pretty fun. So we kicked off the show with Mr. Joe Hendry addressing the, crowd. Basically tells us that he's going to be a fighting champion. Santino comes out, likes that Joe Hendry says this, and already has his first challenger for the championship tonight. And it ends up being Mr. Always Ready, Matthew Cardona. So Matt Cardona is back in TNA, at least for this match. And so this is how this segment went. So this basically just sets up what we're getting later down the line. So we'll talk about the match itself. Macklin hates Josh still, and I'm here for it.
He really does.
I love this picture so much. Eric Young is like the school counselor trying to do peer mediation between these two.
God, so funny.
Josh is just like, hey, is very chilled out now. And Macklin's like, I just want to punch your face, but I know I'm going to get in trouble if I do. But basically, what this backstage segment sets up is that Macklin. I'm like, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Macklin in this. I'm like, Eric, you don't owe Josh nothing. And Josh, of course, be like, hey, man, like y'all are good and everything. But Eric is like, no, man, I have a bleeding heart. And he tells Macklin, I got to save him. I was like, don't be Captain Save a Hoe. Like, what? No.
I know.
I was like, Josh don't need no saving. Like, just let him be. But I understand where Eric is coming from as the vet, and his character right now is kind of like that. I love it. Again, I still love that Macklin is just like, nah, fuck you, bro. I still hate you.
Yeah.
You put me in zip ties at Bound for Glory and make me pass out.
Yep.
Like, I was like, Josh is just so defeated. I kind of dig it. He is just like so defeated, and I'm kind of here for this because, well, I mean, we know he's about to leave really soon, so this character change makes a lot of sense.
It does.
So this was a fun little segment.
I agree. And then he was like, I ain't shaking your hand. I was like, ooh, all right, Macklin.
I'm here for Petty Macklin. Macklin is my favorite version of him right now.
Yep.
So from here, we do get into the first match of the evening, which is before this, though, Gia Miller goes backstage. I love that she kind of like palms Ryan Nemeth away from the beginning of this because she wants to talk to Nick, not him. But Gia Miller comes in. Nick's like, hey, I have a lot on my mind, and I will address my loss at Genesis next week. So we're going to hear from Nick next week. I was like, $5 says this was shot at the pay-per-view, which is great. Like, this was probably shot the night of the pay-per-view. TNA was busy to get everything together.
It was, because that's the exact outfit that Ryan was wearing.
Right? I was just like, oh my goodness. So, John, Matt Cardona is also somebody who has made a name more for themselves on the independents. And I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but he loves professional wrestling and always does his best to put over a lot of people too. So I love him for that. Now we can talk about our first match of the evening, which is a 6 knockout tag team match. Masha Slamovich and Spitfire versus Rosemary and the House of Elegance. So basically, we have a rematch of sorts between our champions and their challengers from Genesis. I thought this was a solid match. House of Elegance has decided now to come out as cowgirls, so that just those outfit choices made me laugh so much. But
Oh,
what I tell you though, now I'm even more excited for Masha versus Cora because what happens during this match? Cora Jade comes out and she pulls a mother tucking playbook out of Masha's like page by delivering a file folder that has a picture of Masha with a red X through it, the way that Masha used to do to when she was a heel to all of her
huh?
opponents with the kill wall and everything. And that is enough of a distraction to allow the House of Elegance to push Danny Luna into Masha. So she goes off the apron, and then Ash does the most devastating move in professional history, the surprise roll up on Danny Luna for the win. So I'm like, I think we're getting a rematch between the House of Elegance and Spitfire, which I'm here for. And then
Yeah.
Cora has now entered the crossfire, like the crosshairs. I was like, ooh, she is that school bully who she doesn't know yet quite who her target truly is. And I cannot wait for Masha to come in and just ruin Cora.
Oh my god, I know. I know, right?
It's so juicy. So, Will, quick, what did you before all that? What did you think about the match? And then what did you think about Miss Cora's mind games?
Well, I thought the match was pretty good. I liked it. Of course, Ash. I love Ash. And uh I think that I liked hmm, I liked everything that was I liked, it's hard to because having watched uh Rosemary and Masha fight literally live, and then of course watching Spitfire and Ash and so and
Live.
now they're all mixed, and it was like I was like, oh my god, what's happening? What's happening? And then Core J coming in, and this is one of those matches I think I would have loved to have watched live.
Yeah, because again, going from live to back to TV, it does take a little bit to get back into
Yeah, it
it. You're
really
like,
does.
darn.
I did love it though. I loved it
No,
because,
uh-huh.
and then
I
the
agree.
shenanigans and that roll up, and I was like, "Oh, damn." I was like, "Okay, this is about to get interesting."
No, so tune in to BC WrestlePod because I would not be surprised if we see Miss Masha Slamovich make an appearance over on NXT this upcoming week. Oh man, we cannot wait. It's fantastic. So this is now Josh Alexander comes to the ring with the Northern Armory. This is literally like the retirement speech. So I was like, okay, I know where this is going. Northern Armory are like, Josh, you can't leave. No, we're serious. You cannot leave. And then they, of course, do the thing I knew they were going to do, which is they chop block him and start attacking. Eric Young comes out for the save, gets on the mic, tells Northern Armory, so Center and Saint over here, that is they're going to be in a tag match against Josh and Eric next week. So I'm like, as much as I like Eric and Josh as a tag team because we've seen them do it before, I'm kind of hoping that TNA will have Center and Saint win because I feel like this would add to them becoming a credible threat in the tag team division. Be like, we beat Eric and retired Josh, so go eat them apples.
Go us.
Go us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I I'm excited to see where this goes. I mean,
and how it
especially with Josh leaving soon.
like where is Josh's story going to end?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. It's like, well, where's this going? 'Cause, I
Right.
mean, if Josh is leaving, then one, why do I care? I mean, honestly, why should I care? Because Josh is leaving, and not that's no diss on Josh by any means. It's just that you literally quit and walked away, So where are we going with you, man? It's
I
like
know.
so
We are
that's
in the final, yeah, we are definitely in the final stretch of Josh's story. So I'm with you. I'm wondering where it goes and how we end Josh's tenure with TNA.
I'm just curious. I just like how are you gonna end it? I mean, how are
Well,
we gonna it's gonna end when it ends, but
I mean,
I don't know.
stay tuned for next week's episode because that match is happening next week. So we'll be reviewing it next Friday. So
That's true.
the
There is.
Hardys beating Moose and JDC made me so happy.
Oh my
Like,
god. Oh my god. I was
I
so
was so
excited.
scared they were gonna lose.
I was too, and I was gonna be very upset about it. I was gonna be very upset about it because
Yeah.
I'm coming off of the high of Genesis. So, and I am Hardy's man. Yeah, they're unstoppable. They can't do it. And then when I saw they were going to be fighting the system, I was like, if they lose to the system, I will literally burn the place down.
We will riot. And thankfully they didn't. And what even surprised me more is that Moose was the one to take the pin in this match.
Yeah. You know, my little brain. With him taking the pin like that, I wonder if that's a foreshadow. I wonder if he's going
I
to be
agree
losing
with
that
you.
X Division title soon.
I think he's losing. Yeah, I think Moose is not long to hold that X Division championship.
Because
So,
why in the world would you have your belt holder get pinned unless
JDC is right there.
Yeah, exactly. Who's always getting pinned? It's
Right.
like always pin that one. But I'm just like, ooh, are we about to see him lose that title and then the system completely disband, which would be great. I'm really curious. I really want Mike Santana to take that title from him.
Yes, I
really
100% agree. Mike should be the one to take it off Moose. I am here for that. Match was
this
fun.
is pretty good.
Yeah, match was fun. We get another afterwards. The 23 shows up on the screen again, and then when that dissipates, Sammy Callahan comes out and he's like, "I'm tired of all this nonsense. Like 23, I'm calling you out. Get over here." And first, we find out that 23 is revealed to be a returning Steph DeLander, who is also now our new digital media championship. Please watch the GCW review because that was a whole thing me and Andrew talked about last night because of what PCO smashing a replica belt on the GCW show on Sunday was wild to watch. But not only that, they're like, we're divorced now, me and PCO. I was like,
I love that she's like, I got the belt in the divorce.
The divorce. And so now, but she didn't come alone. She came with her new boyfriend, who also happens to be her real partner in real life, actually, too,
right.
Which happens to be the Southern psychopath of GCW, Mr. Mance Warner. Like, I was like, oh, hell no. But in the best way possible, because listen, Mance's character is a psychopath. He hits people with screwdrivers in the face in GCW. It's wild. But he seems to be here, and I'm like, please let there be more GCW coming into TNA over the next couple months, because I feel like there are some talents that I think could have really fun matches here. But yeah, so Steph is back. I've missed Steph DeLander. Love her so much. And I'm excited to see Mance. Hopefully Mance gets to wrestle in TNA. Will, this will be your introduction to Mance. So me and Andrew love him. He just lost the GCW championship to Effie at the People versus GCW on Sunday, the same night that Genesis aired. So I'm interested to see where TNA wants to do with these two. So I think it's going to be fun. But more importantly, again, I'm happy that Steph is back, especially since she had to go get neck surgery.
She hasn't been gone that long, though.
She's been gone since September. Which, yeah, you're right. It's not that long.
Not that long. So I'm like, is her neck really that healed?
Now, I'm pretty sure she's probably still not medically cleared for in-ring action, but at least she's able to walk.
So I'm assuming that he's going to be fighting for her, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Is that
Okay.
Mance is a proxy, which makes a lot of sense. And like I said before, Mance and Steph are an actual thing in real life. They're really
Right.
cute together, but yeah. So I think Mance is the proxy fighter for Steph, which makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Which I'm
I
here
mean,
for. If you like,
I'm here for it. I mean, absolutely, I'm here for it. I think that's great. I mean, I'm glad she's back. I'm glad she's okay. Um, I'm glad that whatever she had done is done, and she's back, and I just love her. I think she's great. So
I
yeah,
am
this is
too.
fun.
And I'm also excited that she's leading the next chapter of her TNA story too. And she's in control. Mance is working for her.
Right.
So I'm like,
As it
yes,
should be.
more bad bitches in the TNA club. Anyways, so from this moment, match of the night, fight me. Like, holy crap, this match was amazing. And of course, this makes it even more amazing too because Wesley interfered, which means probably more Wesley in TNA and more Wesley on my screen. And I do love that he is now rolling with, Tariq Igwe and Tyson DuPont. So now he has a whole faction. So
Right.
I want a 3-on-3 again with the Rascals versus Wes and, Tyson and Tyreek. And I'm wondering, because right now they don't have the numbers, I would love for them to bring back Myron Reed, who is also a Rascal, and do a full 3-on-3. I hope that's where we're going because I need more action in my life. And crazy enough, Ace Austin's facing Wes Lee next week randomly on TNA television. Yeah. So I'm like, yes, please.
Absolutely.
Oh, that match is going to slap. But again, this is my match of the night. Fraxium do walk out as tag champs. But my God, Trey and Zach brought it to Nathan and Axiom. Like this match ruled.
This was my match of the night too. This was so good. I mean, it was so good. Yeah.
So this was fantastic. So from here, I love this graphic for Mike anyways. But so Mike Santana comes out and I was just like, all right, at this point of the show, we get Steph and Mance. Matt Cardona is about to fight in the main event. We are getting potential rematches and NXT people coming in. I was like, what more craziness can happen? And I'm like, okay, Mike Santana, we're gonna hear from him. We're gonna figure out where we're gonna go with him next. So Mike Santana begins to, cut the promo and talk about how he had to climb a mountain, and in 2025 he's going to become a TNA World Champion, which was super exciting. And then some very regal music hits. I'm like, oh, you got, like, in the best way possible, you gotta be shitting me. Mr. Mustafa Ali is back. We come to find that he is re-signed with TNA. And TNA needs a true leader right now, and he is going to be it, completely ignoring Mike Santana. So I'm like, okay, here we go. I think you just told us who Mike Santana's first feud is now, and I'm here for it.
Yep.
Because Mike works so well when he's the underdog fighting some sort of like oligarchy, patriarchy, systematic, like problematic stuff. So he overcame the system, he overcame Josh Alexander. So having him have to contend with Mustafa Ali and what his character brings and the shenanigans that he has with the security guards, I am so excited for this feud for Mike and Mustafa too, because I think Ali is great. And I'm happy that he's back in TNA and he's re-signed with TNA. I'm like, yes, we're about to get a banger match.
I'm very excited. I can't wait. I love Mustafa Ali. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited that he's going to be part of TNA now. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is great. It's like, can this get any better? I mean, honestly. And then it's just like, who are we going to get in the, who else are we going to get? It can't just be, so who else are we going to get? Something else is going to drop. Somebody else is going to drop. I don't know what it is. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I am so waiting for it.
There is so much happening with TNA right now. We're getting people re-signing. We're getting new people in. The NXT partnership is already starting to take off with NXT stars popping in already. I'm excited. This is great. I love Ali is back. I have missed him, and I am glad he is here in TNA. Girl, just be like, all these bitches better know I am back. That is the essence of this promo.
Mm-hmm.
So she is running full heel with this, and I was like, perfect choice. Thank you, TNA. Yep. So, I mean, literally, that's what the promo is. She's like, I'm a bad bitch. All these bitches are being put on notice. I have come to reclaim this locker room. I'm about to fight anybody and everybody. I'm like, baller. I'm here for it.
Yep. Me too.
So, yep. Cannot wait. So, finally, we get into the main event, which is Joe Hendry versus Matt Cardona for the TNA World Championship match. Fun match. Standing ovation for the win. I figured Matt wasn't going to win here. So it was fantastic. I will say, though, you know, Cardona tried to cheat, as I figured he would, but he was once again stopped by Mr. John Bradshaw Layfield. And then after the match, Joe's face is like, what in the blue hell is this?
I know.
It's like, why are you saving me in my matches? What's the deal, cowboy?
Yeah, I know.
I need some more development. Stop giving me JBL saving. Well, I mean, he was saving Nick, and now he's saving Joe. I'm like, I need answers.
I know. I'm just like, what is happening right now? It's just like, what I don't, what's, who are you? Why are you here? I'm just like,
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully we'll get answers. But again, the match I thought was fun. It was fun for what it was. Mm-hmm. I figured Matt wasn't going to win. And I enjoyed the episode of TNA this past Thursday. If I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it like a solid B, though it probably dropped down to a B- because unfortunately audio issues also probably took some enjoyment out of it. But if they can get it together, because this is not going to be the only time we get live TNA episodes, because we're going to get one, I believe, in February when they go to Florida. And then, some other stops along the way too. So I'm excited.
Right. Yeah, me too.
And that's the end of this week's TNA episode. Quick recap. And this does now officially bring us to the end of our TNA Genesis and regular show, like extravaganza 2-for-1 deal, like 2 hours and 5 minutes. We did it. We made it. Will, I appreciate you being here and sticking it like a trooper with me through this. I know it's a lot. I'm hoping that these reviews with pay-per-views won't be like this. I just it made it easier for this one to combine this and the regular TNA episodes. So we will be, so thank you for being here. We will be back to our regular scheduled weekly TNA TV show reviews on next Friday. And so Johns, I don't know if you are still in the chat, but I appreciate you being here and interacting with us this evening. And please, it sounds cheesy, but please at least hit the subscribe button or at least follow us on some of our socials. I really would love to keep up with you because I love the conversations that you had with us this evening. And to everybody else that is watching too, thank you so much. We have about 20 people watching across all the various social medias in this little thing, which is nice because depending on where you are in part in the world is either very late or very early. So thank you for tuning in. Me and Will are going to get up on out of here before we sign off for the evening. Just as a reminder that I will be back tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific with our newest member of the WWE Review Squad and a personal friend of mine from, my TTRPG days. And we'll be doing a live watch along for WWE Saturday night's main event, which is crazy that another old school concept is being brought back to 2025, which is crazy. But you can also check out our WWE review this Sunday and our first podcast of 2025, where we talk about the worst promos ever. And yes, Steiner math is on the table for anybody to pick. So this is going to be crazy. But for myself and Will and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Bi-Conic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you for a weekend full of fun. But until then, sayonara, adios, and we'll catch you later. Bye!